Hi everyone, and welcome to the ANZ Transactive Global Webinar Training Series. My name is Pip Campbell and I'm Head of Transaction Banking for Australia and Papua New Guinea at ANZ, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this training session today. Today we're going to focus on going through domestic and international payments, and it is the fourth instalment of our current Transactive Global Training Series. So first of all, before we kick off, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that I'm joining you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and also acknowledge the traditional owners of the various lands in which we're all calling from today. And I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples joining us today. So thank you again for joining us. Today, as I mentioned, we'll be going through domestic and international payments in Transactive Global, and this is our fourth instalment. We've been going through a number of features for Transactive Global to make sure you're getting the full benefit of this platform, from our payments, reporting, loans, trade finance, commercial credit cards, insights and foreign exchange. So it's all brought together here for you in the omni-channel experience in Transactive Global. So today we've got James and Sonali joining us to take you through some tips and tricks and demonstrations for making domestic and international payments. And we also have a chat function, so if you've got some questions throughout, please pop them in that chat function and we'll answer them as we go through the session. At the end of the session, there'll also be a recording available to you and your colleagues. If anyone you think would find it beneficial has missed it, you can forward that on, as well as a reminder that we've got 3 more sessions coming up. One on 31st of January, which will go through administration in Transactive Global, the administration function. Another one on the 8th of February, which will take us through Economic Pulse, which is how we use our data to make economic assessments and analytics. And the 15th, and sorry, beg your pardon, the 16th of February on general tips and tricks within the Transactive Global platform. So again, thanks for making the time today to dial in, and without further ado, I'll hand over to James to get us started. Thanks, James.
Thank you, and good afternoon all for taking the time. As mentioned in this session, we'll be showing a demonstration of ANZ Transactive focusing around payments. So as mentioned, there is also a Q&A in the chat, so please put any questions in there during the demonstration. Note, I will be using a demo site, and so you may see things slightly different to the live site that you use. And please feel free to log into ANZ Transactive if you can, and you can follow along with what I'm doing. So I'll just move to my full screen content now. Excellent. So starting on the landing page, what I put here are the 3 main, what we call widgets when it comes to payments. To be able to add these widgets, it's as simple as adding to your workspace up here and selecting them. These are the 3 main ones that are used for payments, starting with a initiate payment, which is just a quick way to initiate a payment. We have pending approvals, so any pending approvals that you have with payments, and we'll let you know the details of these. Any beneficiaries that perhaps need your approval, depending on the security on your site, and also payment templates if they require any approvals from yourself. And then we have your payment statuses. These can be moved around, and the size can be changed. And you also have options within them to decide how you want that view to look like. Anything you do with adding these workspaces is purely for your login and your logon only, and won't affect anyone else who uses ANZ Transactive. So now I'm going to move on to the main payments menu over in the left-hand side here. And I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up through each of the options. Starting at the bottom, we have the file import summary. So any payment that you've uploaded into ANZ Transactive, whether it be like an ABA file or a New Zealand CSV file or any payment file, you'll be able to see a summary of that file here. It'll let you know things like the total number of transactions, if any of those transactions need repair, if any have been rejected. You can also click on the details and find out which line item has the issue. And it will give you the option, depending on how your site is set up, you can fix that payment after upload, or you can make the change and upload it again. Moving up to templates now. So templates are exactly that. It's a way for you to create templates to make payments a lot easier. Any template that you do create is available for everyone, provided they have access to the account. It's as simple as clicking New, selecting your type of template you want to create, and then putting in all the details. With a template, it's always best to put the amount at 0, because you can change that whenever you need to. If you do ever use a template, you do have the ability as well to change the invoice details or the reference details before completing the payment. When a template is created, it'll either be automatically approved or it'll go into a pending approval, depending on how your administrators have set up the security on the site. Moving up from templates, we have payee list. So payee list is similar to templates, although you don't provide any funding details. A payee list is essentially your address book for your beneficiaries. Again, it's as simple as clicking New and putting in the beneficiary details. One thing I would recommend putting in is an email address. By doing that, it gives you the option of, when you use someone from your payee, to send a beneficiary advice via email. When you create someone in the payee list, again, it'll either be in a status of automatically approved, or it may require a second approval, depending on how your administration has set up the security on your site. Next, we have international payment tracking. So international payment tracking is a way for you to track your international payments that you've made out of ANZ Transactive for all GPI-enabled banks. Straight after a payment is made, and provided it is going to a GPI-enabled bank, you will be able to track its progress. So for instance, this was a batch payment, and I can have a look at this one, and it lets me know that it's come from ANZ and where it's going, and that it's beneficiary. Next, we have past payments. So past payments are as simple as that. It's looking up any of your past payments that you've made in ANZ Transactive. And the data here is there for the last 2 years. Next option we have is current payments. So current payments are all your payments that are awaiting approval, that are in a repair status, for instance, or any that have been approved in the last 30 days. All of this information here can be customized to the columns you want to see. So either you can move the columns around, you can right click and decide which ones that you want to see. You have the ability to view just payments for your approval, or any payments perhaps that are needing repair. You'll also be able to export this data, or you can put in a filter. So if you'd like to look for something specific, then you can type it in and it will bring it up. Also, we have these sort of exclamation points here to let you know if a payment has an issue with it. For instance, if we click on this payment alert, it lets you know that it may be a duplicate payment. Other areas you might see in there is if someone's made a payment and they've created it, then someone has come in and made a change to a beneficiary. It will give you an alert to let you know that payment had been changed after creation. And then you can save any settings that you do. And lastly, we'll take a look at create payment, and we'll run through all the different payment types. So starting by creation method. So first, use payment template. So these are the templates that you would have created and that have been approved in here. And you have all of them will be listed, or you can start typing the template name and it will come up with any templates in that name. And you can search. Upload payment file. So this is if you are uploading directly into ANZ Transactive. The division will generally be self-chosen for your sites. File format, standards are your ABAs, for New Zealand, your CSVs. And then there is also ISO. File encoding will default to UTF-8, so you can leave that as is. And then you have the options to import as a salary payment or to disable any changes to the beneficiaries after upload. Note, some sites will have this automatically ticked, and that's based on what the administrator has set up. You have the choice to hide it in a confidential data group if you have them set up, and then you browse and upload the file. What I'll show you later on is ANZ in the help menu has a file checker, which you're able to use to get your files checked before uploading into ANZ Transactive. After you have uploaded a file, you'll then be able to look at it in File Import Summary to make sure that it's all uploaded correctly. Next, we have use past payments. So using a past payment is just using any payment that you've used in the past as a template for this future payment. You will be able to change details such as the amount and the reference details. And moving on to by payment type. So first is account transfer, which is transferring between your ANZ accounts, including if you were to have AU and NZ accounts, you can transfer between those ones as well. Account transfers between same currencies are instant and are 24/7, 365 days a year. Next, we have domestic payments, which are your stock standard AU to AU or NZ to NZ payments. So first, you would select your funding account, and it gives you three choices of your method. First is direct entry, which are your standard overnight processing payments. We have RTGS, which stands for real-time gross settlement. These are for large one-off payments, large one-off instant payments. So things like settlement, for instance, this is what it's used for. And then we have OSCO. So OSCO is your essentially instant payments that can be batched as well as just single, and will generally hit the other bank within, provided it's an OSCO enabled bank, within 12 seconds. There is a limit on OSCO payments, a standard OSCO daily limit, and that can be changed with conversations with your relationship or account manager. So we'll take a look at a direct entry payment first, which is the standard one. So starting off, you can change the value date to future date your payment. If you do future date the payment, you would run through your approval process and then it will sit there waiting till that date. Next, you'll put in the payment name, which is purely for your benefit to be able to search the payment later. Statement narrative is what will appear on your statement. Payment reference is like your invoice number, which will go with the payment to your beneficiary. And direct entry user ID, this will be preloaded unless you have more than one. And then if you need to load it in a confidential data group as well. So once we've done our details, we'll now add the beneficiary details. So if it's someone in your address book, you can start typing their name and they will appear. You have the ability also to change the reference if you're going to make it a batch payment, and each beneficiary needs a slightly different reference. And we can click in here and check the beneficiary details that we have for Sam. Also down the bottom, we have the email beneficiary advice. So we can tick that and Sam will then get the remittance information emailed. Also, you can remove and you can add a brand new beneficiary by adding in all their information. If it is a new beneficiary, you'll also have the option to save that beneficiary in your payee list. Once all the details are filled out, you would click Review and Submit, and then submit the payment. What will happen then is the payment will be sitting in Current Payments, awaiting approval. And then it will take, depending on what your approval process is, whether it be any one, any two, A plus B, or any of those approval methods, will run through by selecting and approve and following. Okay, going back to, we also have international payments. So very similar for an international payment, you select your funding details, the payment name and reference. And then again, we're going to add our beneficiary details. So same way, you can either add or find one that you already have. Confirm all the details. One thing I'd like to point out is that the payment currency, it's at AUD. So by leaving it AUD, it does not give you the option to choose a rate. So if I go and change it to New Zealand, you'll see it gives me the option to put in the FX details. And we have the option of the dynamic rate, which is the rate that ANZ, the standard rate that ANZ offers, or contracted rate. If you have a FX relationship and you have a contract ID, you'll be able to find the contract ID and add it to the payment before submitting it. After the payment is submitted, it'll be in here. Now instead, it will go into pending approval, but after the payment's been approved, it will go into a status of needs rate if the dynamic rate's been used. So by selecting the payment and selecting Get Rate, a rate will appear on the screen, and provided you're happy with that rate, you can hit Trade. Then, provided it's going to an enabled bank, you'll be able to track the payment as it makes its way to your beneficiary. Also, with an international payment, after the payment has been approved, you'll be able to click on your beneficiary, and you'll also be able to download an MT103 if that is something your beneficiary wants as proof of payment. Next, we have a domestic and international salary payment. So these are generally used if you need to make a one-off payroll payment. Generally, with payroll payments, you do upload a file for payroll, but if you need to make a sort of a one-off salary payment and you need that to be at the same security as the ABA files that you upload, you can load it in here, and that will then hide the payroll from any users that aren't meant to see it. We also have pay bill, which is BPay. So again, very similar. You put in your details and then add the biller. Make sure you fill in all the mandatory fields. And then you can put in your biller code. And again, if it's saved already, it'll come up under your payee list, or you can add a new one. So things to note with payments, they do have slightly different cutoff times. With our domestic payments, the DE is, it has a hard cutoff of 7:30, but you would recommend to make the payment before 6 p.m. as you may incur a late lodgement fee. RTGS, and these are Melbourne times, RTGS, you would want to make the payment before 4 p.m. OSCO is 24/7. And with international payments, it depends on which country you are paying, and I'll run through that during the ANZ help. which we'll move on to now. So if at any point you get stuck when it comes to making a payment, you can click on the ANZ Help up here and it will open up a new page. So you've got the search function here, promoted articles here, and also further quick links down the bottom. So if I did want to look at payment cutoff, I could start by the word cut and it will bring up the ANZ processing and cutoff times. So in here, same border, same currency as mentioned, it's 24/7. Direct entry recommended before 6, but you can go up to 7:30, but it lets you know that there may be a fee applied. Also with international payments, we've listed the country codes down here and the times when you need to make the payment, provided you want the same day outbound. So that means the date of the payment will be the day that you've made it. Also on the left-hand menu, we have more quick links. A great one in here is frequently asked questions for payments. You have general frequently, so what is the maximum payment value, for instance, in a transaction? And it lets you know, depending on the type of payment, what the maximum is. There are also international payment frequently asked questions. So as mentioned, why you couldn't select a dynamic rate, it could be because you didn't change the currency. Also through here, we have the file tracker. What I'll do is I'll jump to it quickly through the promoted articles. And in here, you can check your ABA files or your PAIN 001 or XML files. One thing to note, what this checks is that the structure is correct. It does not validate the information within the file itself, such as beneficiary, BSB, and account numbers. Also in help, if you are having issues and you cannot find any of the answers in here, also have a status page. So if there are any issues within ANZ Transactive, you can take a look to see if it's a known issue. For instance, there's a payments one right here, and it will let you know if there are any issues. It will also say when the issue is expected to be fixed, plus any added information. Recommend to add that to your favorites. And lastly, jumping back in to Transactive, we also have ANZ Contact. So if you run through the help and you've checked the frequently asked questions in the status page, you can click Contact. What's great about this is if you are having issues with Transactive Global and payments, by clicking this, it will actually give you a one-time phone number specific to you, plus a code. What this does is it will take you through all the menus immediately and also identify you so the person at the other end knows who you are and your login details. So it certainly makes it a lot faster than calling the usual number. So that's the end of the demonstration with payments. I would like to thank you all for your attendance, and as mentioned, today's presentation, along with further information, will be sent out to you, and it will also be made available through the ANZ Help page. I would also appreciate it if you could take 5 minutes to provide any feedback in the link that's been shared to assist us in making any improvements. And lastly, as mentioned, our next webinar series are coming up. So we have one on Tuesday the 31st for administration is the next one. And what you can do is you can go to the ANZ Help, you can click register for your upcoming webinar. And you can, for the administration one, there's the economic pulse and the tips and tricks, and you can register for those. And also our previous webinars that we've done are also put in here for you to watch. So thank you all for your time and have a fantastic rest of your afternoon. Thank you.